Hey guys, welcome to the Clubhouse. I'm Billy Jackson, and today's review is going to be on Venom. Now, I went into this movie with low expectations because when I first heard about this movie last year, that they were making this thing, I was like, I was excited at first, but then when they said it wasn't going to be connected to the MCU and it wasn't going to be have Spider-Man in it, it really got me thinking, how can they do Venom without Spider-Man? I mean, that's where we get introduced to him in the comic books. The symbiote is on Spider-Man first, and then it goes to Eddie Brock, and that's Spider-Man's, ultimate villain. His nemesis is Venom, because he can, because the Venom, shuns Spider-Man and it becomes his ultimate villain because he wanted to be on Peter Parker, so he hates Spider-Man for shunning him and pushing him away. But he found Eddie Brock, and Eddie Brock was they realized later that Eddie Brock was the perfect symbiote for him, and he ends up becoming what they call a lethal protector, kind of an anti-hero. He stops bad guys, but he might eat them, doing it. But anyway, I've always loved Venom. I actually have a Venom #1 of the Lethal Protector series that this movie is roughly based on. But there again, I was like, how are they going to do it without Spider-Man? And then the reviews came out last week about this movie not being that good, and it has this problem and that problem. So my expectations were even lowered when I went into this, but I still wanted to see it because I'm a fan of the material, and I really wanted to see for myself what all this hubbub was about. And I tell you, I walked out of that theater and I had a great time. I really thought that it was a good movie. It's not a great movie, it's a good movie. And is it worth seeing in the theater? Yeah, why not? I was actually happy that I spent money on seeing this movie because it was worth it. And not because it was connected to the MCU, which it wasn't, or was it? And it's not connected to Spider-Man in any way, or is it? And that being said, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but this movie felt like it could have been either or. It felt standalone to me, and that if it's successful and they want to put it in the MCU, they can. And if they don't want to put it in the MCU and create what they're calling now the Venomverse, I'm cool with that too. But I was appreciative of how the care that it took to make that decision to make it a standalone movie so they can respond to how it does and then connect it or not connect it. So I thought it was great in that respect. And a lot of people were saying, online, they're saying that, you don't even see Venom for the first hour of the movie, which is totally untrue. I'd say maybe the first 30 or 40 minutes, I wasn't watching my clock or anything because I was engaged in what was going on. However long it was till you see Venom, it didn't feel like a long period of time. It didn't feel boring. This movie felt like a 90s action movie. It felt like a comic book movie that came out in the 90s that was well done, but a comic book movie that came out in 2018 that wasn't done the greatest to, everybody's expectations. And what I mean by that is that it was great for a 90s comic book movie. It wasn't spectacular for a 2018 comic book movie. Because some of the CGI effects, are kind of lacking, and I'm a big proponent of that. If you're going to do CGI, I'm going to see it. So if you're not looking for it, you might feel like it works for you, because in a lot of scenes it did work. I loved how the symbiote moved and everything, and all that. So I was half and half on the CGI. Okay, some of it was good, some of it was bad. Excuse me. That being said, the story was pretty good. I understand that it wasn't what I know from the comics, which it doesn't have to be to make me happy. Just got to stick somewhat to the source material, and I felt like they did that. And it kept me entertained, and that's what I really liked about the movie. Now, they try to be humorous in a lot of times, and the humor does not land. There may have been 2 or 3 times where I actually laughed out loud, and I think 2 of those times was just because everybody else was around me that laughed, so I kind of laughed with them. You know, I thought the scene was funny. Did it deserve a bust out laugh? No. But some of the scenes, the humor is really lacking in this movie, but they didn't need to have a lot of humor, and it felt like it was organic humor. You know, none of the humor felt rushed or forced, in my opinion, but I thought it was organic in that way. Sometimes my humor doesn't land. I mean, you can ask Ridgely. She will tell you flat out that I have great jokes and I have bad jokes. So that was just reality. So it felt kind of real that it wasn't, you know, the best humor, but some of it really was good humor. Anyway, I'm not going to get on a tangent about it, but the humor in the movie was one of the things I thought was lacking. It felt really short. The movie is. I haven't even checked the runtime or anything, but I walked out and I think it's like an hour and 45 minutes. It felt like not even that long, maybe an hour and a half is what it really. It felt like an hour and a half had gone by, and I was entertained and I had fun, and I found myself smiling at this movie while I'm watching it. The story was, you know, the villain is your typical mustache twirling villain, which I thought that was lacking. And of course, not a lot of these comic book movies have the best villain work done in their movies. It's all about the heroes, but this is the anti-hero, you know, so he will eat you if you're a bad guy. But, you know, but let me tell you this, when Tom Hardy does become Venom and it's him interacting with Venom, I thought that was great. And me and my buddy that I walked out of the theater with, that was one thing that we absolutely loved about the movie, was the interaction between Tom Hardy and Venom. Because, you know, he's this guy, he's like, I don't know what's going on. And the Venom's like killing people and knock people out and everything. And he's just like looking at him like, I'm sorry, I'm doing this. I'm sorry that I'm... You know? So it was like, it was comical, but felt really natural to me, and I thought they did a really great job with Tom Hardy and Venom. And Tom Hardy voices Venom, in case you didn't know, but you don't hear that, you don't know that. So I wasn't taken out of that fact. You know, I thought it was great. So for a standalone Venom movie with a different origin story from the comic books, I thought the Venom effects and the Venom himself as a character was well done. And that being said, I mean, some of the movies lacking. It's just your typical, and that's what I mean by a great 90s movie, because, you know, most 90s movies didn't have to be that great. They just needed to be entertaining, and that's what made them great. And I hope a lot of people go out and see this, because I had a lot of fun. And some people behind us had their kids there, and the kids had fun. They were laughing and having fun and going ooh and ah at this movie. So I appreciated that, and it felt like everybody in the theater had a great time in this movie. So don't believe these reviews that are coming out like this is the worst movie and this movie's not good. It's not great, but it is good. And if you like a good movie, you can go to the theater and just have some fun and be entertained. And if you like comic book villain stuff, you'll like this movie. So that being said, I'm giving it a 7. It's not an 8, and it's not a 9, and it's not a 10 by any means, but it's definitely worth a 7. That it's worth going to the theater to see and to have a good time and to definitely rewatch. I will rewatch this movie. I had a great time. So, what'd you think about Venom? Have you seen it? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like my videos and subscribe to my channel. And as always, make yourself happy every day. And the only way to do that is to remember, the only thing stopping you is you stopping. Bam!